Hello. Um, I want to talk about the subject of violent women. This is something I have covered a few times before, but there's a particular angle I want to look at this. I've come across a video in Berlin, and in the video, basically, I think it's a subway station, and there's a group of thugs, young men, and there's a young woman walking down the stairs. Now, some reports say she was a Syrian refugee and she was wearing a hijab. Other reports are suggesting that she wasn't a Syrian refugee and it was just a hood. Either way, it's the only relevance of that would be whether it constituted a hate crime or not. But anyway, one of these thugs actually kicked her down the stairs and she landed on her face. I don't know how badly she was injured, and I don't know any follow up from the situation because I've just seen the CCTV footage. I do hope this piece of shit is caught and I hope he's put behind bars because that sort of assault on a stranger, especially a woman in that circumstance, to me, it's disgusting. And there should be no excuses, whether he was drunk or on drugs, whatever. Um, I think someone like that belongs behind bars. Anyway, that's that. And everyone on the forum, I saw this on British Muslims for Secular Democracy, agreed he was a thug, and there was sort of a consensus on that. But somehow it got me thinking about uh, a report I heard about in Chicago a few years ago, where there was a father who defended his daughter from a girl gang. A girl gang. Now, this is an interesting question because I think when it comes to a man defending, whether his girlfriend or his wife or his sister or his mother from aggressive men, that isn't complicated. Most men would consider it their moral duty to protect the women in their lives. And that's not to say that women are fragile little princesses. But the fact of the matter is, the average man is stronger than the average woman. I'll come on to the issue of self defense towards the end of this video, but anyway, that's not complicated. A man defending his girlfriend from a thug. No one's going to question that. It's not controversial at all. But what if a man has to deal with a situation where there's violent women involved? Now, let's say, for example, you have a guy who's walking home with his girlfriend, and you have a group of drunk women. In this country, it's very plausible. We have a very, in my view, unpleasant ladette culture, which is basically summed up aggressive young women who like to drink a lot and get into fights. It's a disgusting culture as far as I'm concerned, and that's not politically correct, but yeah. Um, anyway, let's say those drunk women start harassing the guy's girlfriend. And let's say they use force, they start pushing her and stuff. Now, I think most people would, most guys would say back off, like, you know. But sometimes that isn't enough because I've seen situations where there are drunk women who are incredibly self assured, and simply telling them to back off wouldn't be enough. Now, this is where the controversy comes. Should the man therefore use physical force to protect his girl? Um, my personal view is absolutely yes. But society's view would be that men should never use force against women, and this is a difficult thing because there is rightly a taboo around that because there are some men who brutalize women and it's appalling. But I do think certain situations you really, really, really need to look at these things because it isn't black and white. And surely a man's priority to protect his girlfriend overrides the potential harm to his reputation from taking on violent women. Now, the women I've been with are they're not pushovers, but they are not the sort of women who would be able to physically defend themselves. And that's not a sexist statement, it's just a statement of fact because I know them. They're not fighters. It's just not in them. I'm sure if they took training they could, but it's just not in their personality. Therefore, as a man, it's my responsibility to look after them in that situation, and that's a role I'm fine with. I should say in the past tense, I'm single at the exact moment, but The point is, if it is social understanding that it is a man's role to protect the woman he loves or cares about, then surely that should be universal, and it should apply to male thugs or female thugs. And I think one problem in society is there's this assumption that female thugs are less of a problem because of an assumption that they're physically weaker. Well, firstly, you get any drunk person, any drunk, aggressive person, they could potentially do damage. It doesn't matter if they look physically unintimidating. They have a bottle in their hand or whatever. It's and a lot of people pontificate about this behind the screen. Oh, I would do this, I would do that. But the real world is not as black and white as cyberspace sometimes is. So I was thinking about that father in Chicago, and I posted this question, and it'll be interesting to see what the replies are. I posted it before recording this video, so I'll be interested to see what the feedback is. And all I would say is 99.9% of the time, I would say it's wrong to hit women. But if a man is protecting a woman from other women, what then? It's naive to think that all women can, oh, they're women, so let her fight with them. That's stupid. It's totally stupid. Because a young woman who doesn't get involved in fights and doesn't have that sort of personality, it's not going to be, you can't just expect her to fight them off. That would be crazy. So I just wonder what people think of this. And just to be clear, I really, really don't want to be misunderstood here. In no way am I making some sort of moral equivalency in general terms. In general terms, I think men who beat women are scumbags. But there are certain circumstances where there has to be an egalitarian principle here. And I think, people need to look at situations on their own merit. And I honestly think most reasonable people would look at a situation like that, like, for example, the father in Chicago, and defend the father, male or female. A thug, or a yob, as we say in the UK, is someone who starts fights with strangers for no reason, just because they're bored or because they have a trashy personality and they don't respect other human beings. Um, I have seen drunk women, I've seen aggressive women, and it's not pleasant. Anyone in that situation. And about the self defense issue, in an ideal world, everyone would be able to learn self defense, but that's not necessarily practical. Number one, there isn't enough self defense trainers around, to go around everyone, so it just isn't practical. Number two is a time issue. People have busy lives. It's not necessarily, people wouldn't necessarily have the time in their lives. So there's a lot of factors involved in this, and I'm just, yeah, wondering what people think. Personally, I have contempt for women who think that they can be violent or aggressive just because they're women. With men, I could say that for men, but it's kind of a given. A man who beats women is a piece of shit. And that's a given in most people's line of thinking, including mine. But what about violent women? I mean, there should be social condemnation of that just as much, just because generally women are physically not as strong doesn't mean it's any less of an issue. I heard about a young woman in a nightclub somewhere in the south of England. She almost put a guy's eye out. Why? Because she was drunk and there was a misunderstanding over a drink. Now, in the end, she got a community sentence. She didn't get a custodial sentence, which was a disgrace. Um, she basically got off lightly because she was female, which, kind of flies in the face of feminist claims. But yeah, anyway, I'll leave it there. Let me know your thoughts. Personally, I think violent women are despicable. And I am not talking about women defending themselves. I absolutely give credit to a woman defending herself from a rapist or something like that. But I'm talking about violent women who just, like to pick fights with strangers. If we condemn men like that, we should also condemn women like that. And I think there should be some conventional standards in this. Let me know your thoughts.